I'm just going to make sure that we can.
Oh, we're live now.
We're going now.
All right.
Hi. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Nice. Hello, everyone who's watching. Welcome to Life Matters Live. This is where we open up the therapy room and get all the information from psychologists and bring it out to the public. So tonight, my name's Eliza. I work for Life Matters, and we're joined by our lovely registered child and adolescent psychologist, Kane Griffith.
Hey,
Adorable puppy.
and Chad, and Mr. Chad, my little boy.
Hi, Mr. Chad.
Say hi.
He's already my favorite.
He's just sitting here, just helping Daddy out.
That is awesome.
Settling the nerves.
Nice. No reason to be nervous. Kane, thank you so much for jumping online and sharing this space with me. Don't worry, we're both in the hot seat because this is the first time that I've actually presented on here as well. So we're here to talk tonight about bullying. It's a bit of a tricky topic. I know myself as a parent, I've got 2 young kids. We're not quite at that point where bullying's kind of a part of their life yet because they're in preschool, but I'm already nervous about when they go to school around what's going to happen. And I'm also nervous about online space. How's it going to be for them online, in this day and age. So, we're here to learn from you. You're a registered psychologist, and a school counsellor. Tell us a bit about you first, and then tell us a bit about bullying in general.
Yeah, cool. So, my name's Kane. I am a registered psychologist, and I'm also a school psychologist. So I service 2 local schools in the Newcastle area. I've had some experience in the country, so in Aberdeen and Muswellbrook. So I've gone in thick with some of the country kids and stuff like that. So did my time and now I'm here back in my zone, able to surf after work and stuff, which is really cool. And so I definitely get a lot of referrals related to bullying. And as you can see, I'm quite young, so a lot more referrals these days are related to the cyber stuff and social media, which I'm sure a lot of psychologists, 10 years ago, 20 years ago when they were starting out, it wouldn't have been a thing, but it's very much a real issue and something that parents and kids need to prepare for. Yeah. And
I've got this image of bullying, and I get this kind of image of like a kid in the playground, sort of preying on another kid, but I feel like that's another very archaic view. Enlighten me, like, what does bullying look like this day and age? Let's consider the school playground or at school. What does it look like at school?
Yeah, so in the school playground, I guess you've got your textbook bullying, which everyone's aware of. So your physical, so that might be persistent physical abuse, in the playground, things like that, tormenting physically, or with the intention to actually, cause a lot of harm to another child or young person. Then you've got, say, social bullying. So that might be like in the form of exclusion, like, oh, we're going to play with this group and try and exclude young Eliza over there. And, that more, I guess, manipulative side of things, like that kids kind of tend to do, which is not nice. Then you've got your verbal bullying, obviously. And it's, I guess, in terms of bullying, it's not just a one-off thing. It's definitely a persistent pattern with the intention to cause a lot of harm and distress for the other child. So, and then, of course, you have your cyber or online bullying, which is still a space that we're trying to learn about and how to adjust and deal with things that happen online. So, you know, you've got things like trolling, which will be that kind of persistent harassment online. You've got social exclusion as well in that case. So, you know, you've got group chats and things like that where you leave people out intentionally to cause harm. And then you've got all kinds of things like sharing people's like private content. You might have, you know, shared in trust with someone, but they've gone out and put that out in the world. So yeah, I guess the permanency of that stuff is very damaging for children. And whereas your online your school stuff, your non-online stuff is something that is you're going to be able to sort out at school, hopefully, and it's not something that's going to be accessible at any time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I mean, from like a parent perspective, so how can we actually be aware of those signs how do we know when our child's being bullied in those contexts?
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of universal across all forms of bullying, I would think. So in terms of signs of that your child may be bullied, I would look into whether they're being a bit more withdrawn than usual. That might be them, you know, going to their room more than usual, not wanting to spend time with the family, you know, dinner time, that kind of thing. They might be dismissive that anything's going on. They could get really defensive as well and reactive, right? So you might notice them being a little bit more fiery teenager than usual.
Okay.
You've got things like obviously physical health, right? So if you notice that maybe there's been a loss of appetite or that they're having sleeping problems, like you might realize that they're tired a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Other things definitely would be like an avoidance. So avoidance of school is a big one. That's definitely a big sign that something's not right. Especially if they're typically people, you know, young people that like going to school.
So you're talking about like a shift here and a real change in behaviour from what they were to then something's different here.
Yeah, definitely. Like obviously parents know their kids more than anyone else. So I think like a good strategy is to obviously like monitor their baseline behavior, right? Which does get tricky because teenagers are very unpredictable and they're going through all these changes as they grow up. But if you do notice some patterns, you know, you can at least open up with a conversation and say, look, this is what I've noticed.
Yeah.
Is everything okay, as a starting point? And they might say, oh, mum, like, leave me alone, shut up, like, I'm fine. And they might genuinely mean that, which is fine. But at least you're at a starting point. You're opening up and you're being approachable with them.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so our role as a parent is to, I guess, act on those signs, but first be aware of them and then move into that act zone. So what things can we do? More of what you were just talking about, like that kids. You spoke to me about in the past about that sort of 3-stage approach.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so in terms of connecting kids, like teenagers, all of a sudden, like if parents like watch this and then all of a sudden go, all right, we're going to have family time, every night at 7 o'clock, we're going to have dinner together, blah, blah. That could be a huge change if it never was a thing before, right? And teenagers, kids, we don't respond to change very well, right? So I think slow, steady would be a good approach. And you might start by just trying to spend time with your child a little bit more and making a conscious effort to engage with your child. Like children and young people are practical learners. So, lead by example. Like if you might say that you've had a tough day at work and there was this person that was a bit nasty and this is how you kind of navigate it, or you might ask them for a bit of feedback, like, oh, how would you deal with this? That kind of thing. Engage them in the discussion. And then it's like kind of secondhand, teaching. And an opportunity to build resilience in them. And if you can set something like that up, that kind of environment where you're approachable and it's not like a big deal type of thing, you know, you're hopefully going to increase the likelihood that your teen or young person is going to come up to you and say, look, Dad, look, Mum, you know, this happened today. Kind of like what you were dealing with at work. Like, how do you think I can deal with it at school? You know, just really getting on their level, I think, is really important. Yeah, I'm known for tangents, so I've just got.
I'm going to stop you.
Sorry. So the other thing, sorry, do you want to stop me?
I was just saying, look, we've only got 30 minutes, but just to everyone watching, don't worry, because we'll share these tips tomorrow or later on in the week, and you know, we could open this topic right up as well. So don't feel like we've got to cram everything in. But I know you've got so much valuable information, and I mean, people come to you for this and they pay for the whole hour, and we're getting this for free. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
So back to that connection with kids and parents.
Yeah. So the connection is the first thing, like trying to establish that openness and that trusting relationship, right? I think the second thing would be to extend that to other people, right? So I always say with my real little kids, like, to build a strong team, right? So sometimes, no matter how good a parent is, their kids just simply do not want a bar of them, right? Like, and you can get offended and all that kind of thing, but sometimes they just don't want to talk to us. So I think it's important that they're very aware that they can approach other people in their strong team or whatever team you can want to call it. If they think that's a bit too babyish, you know, just try and think of something else.
And who would those other people be? I've seen that Sarah's asked a question here on the side. Should teachers make parents aware? Would a teacher be one of those people? Who else?
Yeah, I think teachers is huge because, you know, 80% of a child's life, or whatever kind of crunch numbers it is, like, a child spends at school, right? So I think they're essentially the parents at school, right? So I think that having a very open communication between parent and teacher is very beneficial. And I think that the young person trying to make an effort at the start of the school year and the teacher really driving that at the start of the school year is really positive. You know, you get different kind of quirks with kids. You might have a kid that's really into drama and music, you know, so they might be able to have a chat with their drama or music teacher. You know, there may be, if it's a high school, there could be leaders of wellbeing at the school or a pastoral care teacher that they can talk to. And yeah, I think I said sporty kids and then went to drama, but sporty kids, you know, there's like coaches and things like that. So as long as they, you know, have some ears for them ready and hopefully a mouth with some nice advice, I think that's a really good starting point. Yeah.
Did you just say beers?
Ears.
I just got like the cool auntie. I was like,
no.
Here's a beer. Probably
Depends what day of the week it is.
Okay, so let's talk about cyberbullying, because I think that's actually going to be really relevant for adults watching as well. I know this is something I'm petrified for my kids, but it's also something that I see every day, like on the social commentary of Instagram or Facebook. I see, come back, Chad, we need you.
He's up. Yeah.
What's happening in the world of cyberbullying? What are you hearing? And
so
be aware of it and help our kids.
Yeah, like I said, like, cyberbullying is definitely a very common reason for referral for me in the school system at the moment. It's very challenging, and I think that I believe it's when children and adolescents are kind of at their most vulnerable. You know, they are on their own, so there might not be any eyes on them if they're going through some distress, if they're in their room, for example, whereas school, if an incident goes down, it can be known and monitored quite easily, and obviously intervened with teachers and appropriate support people. So that's when it does get hard, because kids, tend to use their phone a lot before bed and things like that. And if there's an issue that might impact their sleep, they might feel distressed about going to school the next day. And parents, they might wake up the next day and the parents have no idea that there was a major spill over the internet. So again, with like a pre-intervention kind of lens, I would try and establish, clear boundaries in regards to, we'll call it screen time, right? And I think, again, it can't be just, all right, all of a sudden we're going to do this, and this is a new rule in our household because, cyberbullying's bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think incorporating the young person in the conversation and letting them know, why you're choosing to put some boundaries around their use of their phones and things like that. I think that for the real littlies, like the kids that are at a primary age, and some parents might be like, well, they shouldn't be on it at all, but maybe use that, young brain as a chance to build resilience, right? And set a really good framework for how they should, helpful ways of using social media and things like that. And that could start pretty early on with parents managing an Instagram account or Facebook. That could change to co-management, right, as they build some trust, right, with the young person. And then, of course, like parents, just like teens, they've got to take risks, and they got to let them go at one point. So if you're, of the idea that the young person is trustworthy, they're giving you nothing but good feedback online and stuff like that, then perhaps you can give them a little bit more flexibility, especially when they're a teenager and they've got plenty of ways to make other accounts and very, very tricky stuff. So I would take a perspective of trying to work with the young person rather than just a straight, narrow approach. Try and be flexible.
Yeah, and we've got our program here, Boss Brain, which is actually taking sort of using technology, in a positive way. And I think, I'm not a psychologist, but I've seen the change that can have on young people when they use technology in a really positive way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And technology is meant to be a positive thing, it's how kids these days and teenagers, it's how they engage with the world. Like it's how they socialize. Like, at school, they're working hard. You get lunchtime and recess where when they get home, they have the opportunity to link with people online and share their stories of school and, how Miss was this and that and, all kinds of things. And it can be a really helpful debrief tool for them and, shared understanding and that they're, being heard by another person, like it definitely has its positives. So I think if we're too fearful, they'll pick up on that and that's not, I don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah, true. That would almost turn against them. So what about something like and I'm going a little bit of a tangent here, but let's take, like Sarah's written, as parents, should we advise our kids to just block a bully and move on? That's like a very specific example, but it'd be great to answer to something.
No, that's all right. And I guess like my thoughts on this isn't going to be gospel, right? And it might be a differing perspective to other psychologists, right? So with that question in mind, it obviously is case by case. But I think, say the young person were to tell their parents that this has happened and that they're really distressed about it, and say it's a picture of them that they don't want up there, right? That's embarrassing for them. I think as a first point to try and obviously report the photo and things like that, try and limit further exposure and distress. I think it would then be important to not engage in any conflict with, I guess, the perpetrator online, because again, anyone can say or do anything on the other end. I think parents being level-headed instills that confidence and that support and that security. So if teen responds to that look, everything's going to be all right, we're going to get rid of it, we're going to have a chat with your school and we're going to sort this out, all right, like that kind of reassurance. Obviously, I don't want to go on a tangent again, but obviously it goes back to connection, because a young person might not want to speak about this kind of thing with a parent because it could be a really, really personal content that was said about them or posted about them online. So I think having that approach of just saying, no matter what it is, you tell us, and you're not going to, you might not get in trouble, but the first thing that we're going to do is talk about how we can support you. And if there are consequences, and someone's, your young person has misused their right to be on social media and things like that, then the consequences or further boundary setting might happen a little bit later. But I think it's definitely first thing is support that young person.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, pretty tangent there, sorry.
No, I mean, I think you just exposed the fact that this is such a huge topic and it can't be covered in 30 minutes, but we've kicked it off tonight, and I'm sure everyone can follow us on Facebook and jump on our website. We'll have some resources there in the coming few weeks. And obviously, can you work at Life Matters Psychologists? So that's where we can find you for further information. Before you go, if this has brought up anything for anyone, where else can parents go if they need help?
Yeah, so I guess going back to Sarah's question, if it was something, for example, that wasn't able to be rectified, online by blocking and things like that, there's actually a website. If parents type in eSafety into Google, you can actually report cyberbullying online through the government website. So they've also got a lot of information and social stories for young children as well. I forget the possum's name, but there's some kind of possum, and it's a really nice possum. It's a possum family. It's It's
always something.
So for the lilies who may be starting to get their own accounts and things like that, there's some social stories on that website. There's also kids helpline. So again, to have a set of ears, not beers, but ears, and have a chat with a counsellor one-to-one on the kids helpline, which is really good. There's heaps of information for parents. Actually, like in doing a bit of preparation for this, I had a good look through the Kids Matters Kids Helpline website. It was really helpful. One for more teens would be reachout.com.
Okay.
That's another one that has like an online counselling forum, which is also free as well.
Yeah.
And another go-to at the schools that I try and link kids with is eHeadspace. So eHeadspace is an online chat that, again, you can talk one-to-one with a clinician counsellor online, and they have a lot of helpful information to assure parents and navigate. So there's one more. I think it's raisingchildren.net. That's really good too. So have a look at that. But I feel like I need to say, like, from a school perspective, in terms of getting support, your number one point of contact in a primary school would be your classroom teacher. If issues persist, they would pass that on to the assistant principal and principal at your school. the good thing about that is, teachers can offer mediation between kids. And if there's, say, a referral to the school counsellor like me, that child can also receive counselling support at the school, right? The counsellor can also, like, I can do things like mediation as well between kids, if parents both consent to that. In a high school, you've got a larger support network there. So typically I'm linked with the leaders of wellbeing or the year coordinators. So that's definitely an option as well. And again, there can be a lot of mediation and opportunity for resilience and, like healthy ways of conflict resolution and stuff like that. But
and I'm just going to jump in. Sorry, I'm just conscious of a little time.
That's all right. Sorry.
I'm going to get this massive list that you've just put up, and we'll put it up on our socials tomorrow, so people actually link to that, because I think some of those went in. I heard reach out, and then I've just my list. It's amazing that there's so many resources, and knowing that's there. I'm also conscious we just got another question, and this is a great question. How can we encourage our kids to open up, as it's hard to get them to open up, which is true. What's a nice example?
Again, a very, very tough one. I would try and engage the young person in something that they like doing. That would be my style, and that's what I do at school if I have someone that's finding it difficult to open up to me. So, you might have a game of at home or something like that, and just start the conversation really lightly about school. And again, like, don't go that conversation. You might not go straight into, oh, so are you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, I've noticed this, that, and the other. You might just have that game of at first and just check in generally, and ask how school is. And a couple of days later, you might do something different. Like, help us out with the gardening. How was school today again? So give them the opportunity to do it themselves. And then if you've done that and that's been, normal practice and habit for them, that's when you might be able to get to a stage where you can be nitty gritty and put it on them and say, look, I've noticed this and you haven't mentioned anything and I was holding back, but I really want to know what's going on. Like, and again, trying to reassure them that it's about support and not consequence and not judgment. It's coming from a position of love, sounds a bit, cliche. But that's the simple rule. Like, connection is everything. And I know that parents, are very busy with work and stuff like that. But if they want to get it right, they've got to try and spend as much time with their kids as they can.
Yeah, awesome.
Hope that answers your question, Karen.
Thank you so much for your time and for Chad's time.
Yeah, cool. He's at the door. He's been sucking the whole time. I've been like hitting the bed trying to get him back up.
Nice. And next week, do a little plug. We're doing, in a fortnight's time, we're opening up the therapy room to talk about how to manage wild kids, the wild child. So tune in a fortnight's time, Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thanks, Kane. Bye.
Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Bye, Chad.
See ya.